Welcome back to my channel. So today's question is a little bit of a long one that needs some context. So this question was submitted by Summoner Red. So before I ask the question, there's some information that you need to know. So I'm gonna read the preamble kind of thing that he posted, and then I will get to the question. And before anyone continues, this topic deals with missing and murdered Indigenous women. So if you find this topic triggering, it is a sensitive topic. Please feel free to skip this video. So I just wanted to give you that warning and that option before you continue. Missing and murdered Indigenous women, MMIW, by the way, is a human rights crisis that has been acknowledged as a serious issue globally by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, but focused specifically in Canada and the United States. In Canada, it has been elevated to a genocide-level crisis. From 2001 to 2015, the homicide rate for Indigenous women in Canada was almost 6 times as high as those for non-Indigenous women. Furthermore, reports have that 1 in 3 Native women will experience sexual assault in their life, with over 67% of those assaults happening from non-Indigenous peoples, and that's just those that are reported. Legislation was promised by Trudeau and the Canadian government, but was pushed aside for the COVID pandemic, which has also disappropriately affected Native people, and nothing yet has been done. My question is, as an Indigenous woman in Canada, can you explain your thoughts, worries, fears, and hopes around missing and murdered Indigenous women and what you think others can do to bring light to this crisis? So I'm the Vice President of the Aboriginal Congress of Alberta Association, which is the Alberta chapter of the Congress of Aboriginal People. So in Canada, we had a inquiry into the missing and murdered Indigenous women, where they not only talked to families, they talked to organizations like CAP, the AFN, and like the Métis Nation and the ITK, which represents the Inuit from the 4 regions in Nunavut and Northwest Territories. And I was part of the roundtable discussion group for CAP. And so I gave recommendations. I talked about my own experience with missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so I've been a part of many discussions, part of that. And so for me, this is a topic that is very important, not only as an Indigenous woman, but as an aunt, as a sister, as a friend, and as a daughter. And so once that report was done, it was actually submitted into an actual final report. And so I literally haven't even taken it out of the thing because I still haven't read it, and it's actually going to be part of my podcast. So I will be talking about it more, but like, here is the report. From all those discussions, here is the actual National Inquiry into Murdering Indigenous Women and Girls report. This one's volume 1A, and then there's one underneath it. And then this is 1B. So as you can tell, there's going to be a lot of reading happening. But yeah, there's so much work. And to be honest, there were recommendations that came out from these discussions, and I had a chance to go through them and make comments on them. And one of my biggest comments were the actual report itself and the recommendations were so rushed. You could tell that some of them were really vague, and a lot of them said the same exact thing but in different words. And some of them were very specific to a specific region. Like, for example, here we have camps. So we have camps because we have the oil fields. And then I think in Manitoba, there's these water plant camps. And so those places have been known to be very violent for Indigenous women, especially in the neighboring communities. And so this one recommendation was for a specific water plant in Manitoba. And to me, that could have been a generic any camp where there are lots of people there, and it kind of makes it not a great place for the Indigenous women around, and any woman, to be honest. And so I feel like things like that, there were a lot of things that were just written very wordy, to the point where if you actually pared down what it was saying, what this was saying, they meant the same things, and they could have been combined. But it was like, almost like, here are all our recommendations, we're gonna just throw it in one document. I feel like if I had to think of like editing, those recommendations could have had like a second or third pass to combine those recommendations, make them more coherent and cohesive. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I wished, even just for this, that it would have done better. I know and those recommendations were brought forward to the federal government, and I think that's what they were talking about. With COVID, oh my goodness, there's so many things with COVID that has affected. Not only is it this process, because the truth is, this happened with a lot of communities, not even just Indigenous communities, a lot of communities, which is we've all been isolated or quarantining, whatever, like in lockdown with our families. And sometimes our families, especially people who are living with violence, it's not the best place. You're basically leaving them in captivity with their abusers. That not only is for women, but that's with children as well too. And again, like that's with everybody. So COVID is overshadowing everyone at the moment. And I know it's kind of pushed this aside. It's still an important issue. But what can you do, right? Like there's so many things. And I think knowing that that's a crisis in itself, and making aware that like shelters are going to need more support during this time, you know, just being aware that these things don't go away just because they're not in the news, just because we're not talking about them and we're not actively pushing these things forward. They're still in there. I know a lot of people who are doing the work of pushing forward missing and murdered Indigenous women. They are still doing that work. You should be following them on Twitter. You should be following them on Instagram. And there's no global organization. They're more central ones. Like I know people who are specific, do a lot of work for Edmonton. There's a group that's doing something in Vancouver. There's a group that's doing something in Toronto. It's like they are everywhere. It's not hard to find them. They are on social media because they are pushing these things forward all the time. So really, I think the way people can help is you need to make the initiative to go out and find them and ask them, how can you support them? And if you don't know the crisis, which is missing and murdered Indigenous women, I would start there. Again, there's a lot of organizations that do a lot of work to educate them. And if you're in Canada, this document, by the way, I have a hard copy of, because I, again, was part of the inquiry, and so they gave us all copies. But if you want to read these documents, that would be a good place too. And I believe they are all online as well. You can get a hard copy. I think only so many were printed. But I will post here. There's a link right there. I'm going to post that not only in the description, but I'm going to put it on the screen as well. Go there if you want to find out where you can get a copy of this, or see if you can get a digital version of it. And yeah, really, it is a crisis for a reason. And I think I can't teach you empathy if you don't want to learn. You know what I mean? So I guess my hope is that people understand that this is a crisis and understand why it's a crisis. But you have to want to learn. I don't want to teach people that don't want to learn. And if you can't see how it is affecting us, or can't empathize that it's very important to us as Indigenous women, Like, I don't know where to go from that. And it's not my job to make you care. You have to want to care. And so my hope is more people just care. Thank you, Red, for the very important question. And yeah, I will be doing a podcast episode about specifically missing and murdered Indigenous women and my own experience with it, and my own experience being involved in this process, because it was I didn't realize how much it affected me personally until my first roundtable discussion that I cried so hard I couldn't even get like a word out. And so it has affected me, and I didn't realize how much it had affected me until that first meeting. Yeah. Thank you again. And if you have any resources, please feel free to share or tag me in my next video.